Prana chai is Australia's most loved sticky chai and now enjoyed all around the world in artisan cafes and homes from the UK, USA, Korea and Japan, and of course all around Australia where it has been handmade with love right from the beginning. Prana chai is made with all natural ingredients, no artificial sweeteners, preservatives or additives. It's only the good stuff. Prana is a Sanskrit word that translates to life force, and each day they aim to put this into their daily chai production. Thank you to Prana Chai for being our podcast brand partner on Things You Can't Unhear. Well, hello everyone. I'm Maritza Barone and welcome to my podcast, Things You Can't Unhear. As a presenter with a focus on wellness, I have interviewed many health professionals in my time and heard stories that have opened my eyes about the world we live in today. But I found the best bits that I take home with me and the things I heard that have changed my life are usually when the recording shuts off and we can talk in length behind the scenes. And that's the information that I want to share with you on this podcast. Love and relationships are some of the most important things in our lives. However, many of us have been hurt in the past, whether it's from divorce or breakups or guilt, or even just a self-created fear of being vulnerable to someone else. And we tend to block love from returning or showing up in our lives. Today, I'm really enthusiastic to have Toni Reilly on the show, who's going to give us insights into opening ourselves up to finding true and long-lasting love. Toni Reilly is an international best-selling author, speaker, and Australia's #1 internationally recognised regression specialist. She's the creator of Soul Life Coaching, which are programs guiding her clients with her unique intuitive approach to personal transformation, helping people value themselves so that they can reach their potential. Hi, Toni.
Hey, Maritza.
So glad to have you here today. We haven't spoken about love on our show yet, and I'm sure our listeners already have their ears perked up as to how to let more meaningful love into their lives.
I guess if there's one thing that I dumbed everything down to from my clients over all these years is we all want to be loved.
It's so true.
We're looking for it, we want it, or I think it's part of the human experience. It's probably the most important part of it.
Absolutely. Why do you think our relationships are so incredibly important?
Our love relationships seem to bring out our insecurities, and I feel like the mission for each of us within our lives is to overcome those parts of ourselves, and the person that we're in love relationships with, or any of those relationships, somehow going to either boost our esteem or potentially maybe damage it or give it a bit of a beating around. So I think that our relationships ultimately are to help us become more aware of who we are as an individual. That person is actually helping us to become who we are.
And our experiences become so much deeper when they're shared with someone else.
They absolutely do, and that's on both sides. So the absolute euphoria of being in love, or then the flip side when it becomes tricky or it breaks down. So yeah, indeed, it brings out the strongest emotions in us of all.
So yes, I agree. And many of us, unfortunately, have been through some type of heartbreak in our lives, or separation, of losing someone, or maybe not being wanted or being deceived by someone. There's a myriad of different ways that we can experience heartbreak. How do you suggest that we move on from heartbreak as quickly as possible so that, there's as little collateral damage to ourselves as possible?
Oh, you know what? I know that we would love a quick fix for it, but unfortunately, heartbreak it can be over pretty quick. It's going to depend on the individual, and for some, it will last a really long time. And I feel like there's no speeding it up, actually. It takes as long as it takes. So if I was to advise anyone on what to do, it would be, you have to sit with it. You have to feel uncomfortable, feel sad, feel angry, feel ripped off, whatever it might be, and allowing yourself to actually feel the damage. Then you're putting yourself more on the path to actually work through it and come out the other side. And we do come out the other side, but it certainly has to run its course. It runs its course. That's what happens.
You talk about some masking indicators of heartbreak in some of your work. Can you explain them to our listeners?
I guess when we're a bit devastated, then we can do, depends on our personality type, but we might, run around and date a bunch of new people. And that would probably come from someone who really needs to feel loved. And there are bruises that are associated with each of these, but I guess it's trying to seek attention so that you feel worthy. So that might be why you run around doing a bunch of dates, jump online and see a lot of people. And I think that's also a learning curve, because within that I was going to say experience, but it's kind of an experiment without people realizing. But what it does is they'll end up realizing that, this doesn't actually make me feel great. That's of course, unless they quickly meet someone who's their person. But so that's one thing. Or I think people who've been in long-term relationships, so maybe they've been married for 15, 30 years, however long it's been, when they come out of something long term, it's like this, it can be like a new life, because they've been together for so long that they've forgotten what it's like to be just a singular person. So then that single life is a whole new thing, and it can mean new friends, and which could be doing different things to what they've been, maybe steadily doing as a family person before, maybe partying and, a bit of fun together, maybe even
testing the waters out.
Yeah, just like, oh my God, I've never done this.
Yeah.
So testing the waters, that kind of thing. So there's those. Some people withdraw more, and they'll be probably not really interacting with anyone. So there's this whole gamut of reactions that people will take.
So I think there's many of us who tend to repeat the same patterns when we after we have a breakup and look for a new partner, and we tend to attract the same type of person in our lives, even though we know it hasn't worked for us in the past. Why do we do that, and how do we consciously, in your opinion, stop ourselves from making the same mistake 400 times over?
I just love this question. So look, what happens is, over time, as we do start to realize, I'm doing this same thing again, and you start to question why, then what ultimately will happen, it'll take a bit of self-development work, but what eventually will happen is you don't need to get tested anymore. So basically then the relation, and this can happen within a relationship as well, but the relationship, either the dynamics change, because you change, that's why, or you do change, and then you don't need to attract that same type of person again, and then you get one that's probably a bit of more happy ever after vibe.
Well, that's the end goal, isn't it? That's everyone's end goal. And that leads us to actually talk about our soulmates and whether they exist in this world and how we define them, because I think it's been the everlasting question in all of society, that is there just one person out there for all of us, or do we have many people who we can call a soulmate and build a happy life with? I know nothing is permanent, so it would be really comforting to know that there's more than one person out there for all of us. So in your opinion, what do you feel about having, whether there's one person out there in the world or several?
I truly believe that, and I can see this through the regression type work that I do, that our soulmate isn't just our lover. That's one thing. There's definitely more than one. And I think that the perception, or maybe the romantic perception of a soulmate, is that there's this one, enduring, amazing love person or love interest for us. But it's not really quite that. And in fact, potentially the relationships that we have with soulmates, everyone we have a relationship with is a soulmate actually, but the ones that cause us grief, they're just as much of a soulmate as the ones that we feel delightfully happy with. And in fact, for most of them, we do start off happy or, everything's sweet until it's not. So, but yeah, definitely. And then when we come out of a relationship, no matter what, whether you saw it coming or it took you by surprise, there is definitely a different or another soulmate. There's definitely more than one.
Isn't that a relief?
It's a relief.
No, it is good to know. And I strongly believe that too. And people can change over time, and, the personalities and the way that we interact with people can change over time. So it also brings me to this question of, people who are in current relationships and maybe had an amazing experience in the beginning where it started off so passionately and incredibly deep, but over time with the pressures of everyday life, like work and kids and general life stresses, they've unfortunately lost their spark or their depth and their meaning to the relationship. So in your opinion, can we lose our way in relationships if it's our soulmate that we are with? Because in my mind, I've always thought that if you find someone that's a true soulmate of yours, it will always feel perfect. But I know that life is not a fairy tale, and there's curveballs that get thrown at us all the time.
I do think that even with the most special soulmate, there's going to be some sort of challenges. And I mean, I'm out the other side of kids, but when we have kids, this as a mom, but when we have our kids, it puts so many demands on. Well, I guess the both parties. The man's providing, and so are we, and we're providing nurturing and love and attention to kids. And I think working in all of the modern day things that we do, it definitely. I guess it just takes our time and our energy, and there's only so much energy to go around, coming out of our human body. So I think it's fairly natural that the relationship will certainly wane to an extent. And then I think what happens is the potential is to revitalize it. And I guess that would just mean that both people are still in love and they're interested in each other enough to put some effort in. And it might be, the kids might have been around for a fair amount of time before they decide to put some effort back into their own relationship. So I think it's possible. They just need to want to, both of them.
I think so too. I think you come out the other end of, your kids have passed that really little dependent stage, and it's like, all right, we're going to give this a crack and learn to know each other a little bit more again. Exactly. Or, it's either do or die. And you see so many couples that sort of just fizzle out after that stage because they don't put the effort in, or they've changed so significantly over that time. But
that's it.
I want to talk about regression therapy, because I know that's something that you explore a lot with your clients and in your seminars. And for those who don't know what regression therapy or soul regression is, it's a tool that allows an individual to access the memory of past lives and the period when we are pure soul between lives. This completely fascinates me, and I've spoken to you about this before. Tell me how regression therapy can be helpful in finding love.
With regression therapy, it is recalling past lives, or generally it's recalling past lives. So how it would help with someone in love, it would be, let's say they're in an existing relationship. What it might show them is a life where they've felt the same. They don't have to be the same sex within the life they're in now. When they go back in the past life, they might be a different sex. It doesn't matter, actually. It's all about the feelings. So what they might do is see themselves in a relationship then and notice the same feelings. I'm going to pick a negative one here. Like, for example, if someone's feeling lonely within their relationship, even though they're in a relationship that they deem isn't bad, but they might have this sort of loneliness, and they might see within a past life how that is playing out then, and it helps them to understand how it's working now. On a more positive note, or if someone was single, for example, and they're yearning for someone to come into their life, um, they might come for regression and be shown, yes, a life or an experience in another lifetime where they did have someone special and it was lovely and they were in love and they were loved back. And what that usually indicates is, if they see something like that, it indicates that it's coming for them. And I mean, I feel like nothing happens by chance. So if they come along exploring that type of a question and they have a regression session, then it's pretty likely that if they to see it, it's going to arrive real soon into their life.
Wow.
Or, Maritza, on the flip side, if they're not getting, if having an amazing love relationship isn't what they're doing in this lifetime, then what happens also within regression is they come to a real understanding, like, oh, that's not my mission this time. And that one way or another, they will leave the session feeling at peace. Um, yeah, so, oh, it's coming, they're feeling great, then hopeful, or, oh, it's not coming, then I'm going to get on and do some other things with my life.
Yeah, I really want to delve into some examples that you've, and I obviously don't mention names, but I'd love to hear actual examples of some of your clients who have gone to perhaps find love after delving into regression therapy with you and what they've actually seen.
Look, I do have a bit of a cute love story. So, and it had started about the time that I discovered regression therapy. So, the what I saw was, well, I recognised this person that I had met. If I just give a slight background for
Yeah,
context,
love
without
to.
just taking over the whole podcast, but I was married for 16 years and I had 3 kids, and then in my middle 30s I left that relationship and I had met a new man, and it was like it took me entirely by surprise. Certainly wasn't looking, and it ended up taking on a bit of a life of its own and ended up into a next 8-year long relationship, and it was incredible. But also this relationship taught me a whole lot about myself, and I guess my self-awareness journey started around the same time. But with that self-awareness coming up for me, I was able to regress back and find out key stories or key reasons why our interaction was the way that it was. And so I've seen him a few times in my past lives, but not as um, not as in love as I felt in this life. There were more like, one time he was my little brother,
Oh, wow.
and one other time he was my husband, but it totally long time ago, not recent. And we were kind of, I guess, driven apart. I'm thinking of the one as a husband and wife. I could see myself as a buxom traveling person. I could see that we would get around in with other people in our group, but in like caravans. It's really funnily a little bit cliche, but they look kind of like gypsy vans, I suppose, as
Yeah.
what we would know them today. I think we were Russian, actually, but I could see that we would do our work on the side of the road. And anyway, I was killed. I think I was a bit of say a herbalist, and for whatever reason, someone within our communities was having a baby, but I was the go-to person to check. I probably was the midwife as well,
Oh my
but
goodness.
their child didn't make it. It would have been absolutely nothing to do with me, but the mother didn't either, actually. The mother didn't make it. And the father just went crazy, and just in grief, I suppose it would have been, but he killed me. And what happened from that is I could understand sort of this, I don't know if I could call it neediness, a bit of abandonment stuff that my new partner had. And yeah, so I guess the past lives
See what I mean?
Like,
Absolutely fascinating. Like
yeah.
it
Well,
almost seems as though that's like a film that you've watched. And how do you get
you
these
can see it
visuals? How
like
do
a
you?
film. You can see it like a film. Like, well, I mean, not everyone sees it like a film, but you certainly get snippets of images. But for some people, they literally run like a film. It's in their mind. So it's,
Mm.
I guess it's more like how we see a dream, because it's in we're using our sixth sense. But yes, it's amazing. And when you use this for therapy, we are looking for something to create a better now, to improve our relationship now, to make our life better now. So it's not about dwelling in the past. It's to bring us some clarity and make now better.
How
But
do you
they're
get
amazing what they show up.
people into this hypnotic state to delve into their past soul regression?
Yes, so you guide them into, like, I call it guided visualization or guided relaxation, but that's what hypnosis itself is. It's just that the method of relaxing someone down. So you put some nice meditation music on, and my voice goes all meditative, and I
Mhm.
guide them into a lovely relaxed state. And then, because I think for people, whether they are used to meditating or not, they certainly don't need to have ever meditated before. But the little process that we use, it starts them having these memories come up in their mind, so that they can see them. And I guess the thing with regression that also makes people assured that they're not making it up, because it can feel like you're making it up.
Right.
But what happens is you cannot control the emotion that is felt in there. So people are very aware of if they're a nasty person, or if they're a really kind person, or if they're really in love, or they're really lonely, they're really sad, they're really happy. Whatever it is, the emotions seem to be amplified, and they can't ignore them.
Mm. You know, when you meet someone for the first time and you just connect with them, whether it's
Yeah.
someone that it's a love interest or just a person that you'd have a platonic relationship with, and you're just like, I feel like I've known you my whole life. I feel like I've known you before. That feeling happens to me a lot. And in your mind, in your opinion, is that someone that you feel I would have known in a past life?
Oh, absolutely. And I suppose if we were trying to really maybe define what a soulmate is, I think when you have that really strong recognition, it is a recognition of sorts, where you do, I guess the biggest telling thing is that you feel immediately comfortable with them. And even if you have only just met, and I am for sure certain you've been with them before, and maybe many times. But those are the kinds of things you can explore, even if you don't realize that there's something therapeutic that you want to address. You might come along and go, how come I feel so comfortable with this person? You
Mm.
can see where you have been before, when you have been together before. It's really exciting.
Oh,
Actually, I did that in a soulmates workshop recently.
I do want to talk about your soulmate workshops, actually, and you're leading on to the questions perfectly. So thank you. So you do run workshops for people who are looking for love. Tell us what they entail.
The Soulmates workshop is a fairly new workshop for me, but basically they're almost always about you. So people will come along and learn about how they interact within relationships. And it's not like you're not really feeding them anything. You're almost waking them up to themselves, where they can acknowledge and recognize how they behave, and what they do, and what they need, and what they don't like, all of those kinds of things. And then what knowing those things does for people is it gives them an added strength, and just it empowers them really to either improve a relationship, or be more ready for one, and be having more healthy relationships, I suppose, where they're not feeling so defensive, or they're not feeling so jealous, for example, because they're understanding where those maybe those feelings are coming from. But the other thing we do in those workshops is, because it is called Soulmates,
Mhm.
we do a bit of a regression, so that we can go and see when they've been with someone special before. And I suppose what that might mean is, if they've come along with a girlfriend, for example, or their mum, but they've come along with a friend, what might happen is they actually can recognize each other in the regression that they see. And then for others, it might be that they certainly can recognize a lover that they've had. Or sometimes what happens in regression is if there's a person coming, they can feel it, they can see them, but they can't see their face. Or they can see them, but just the face is blurry, and they'll come out and go, "Oh, I could see, and he was so lovely," or she, either way. And it's like, oh, usually that means they're coming. You just haven't met them yet.
Do you usually generally have mainly females in your seminars looking for love?
It's mainly women.
I
It's
know, where
mainly
are all
women.
the men out there? Come on.
Yeah, you know what? They're out there, but they're out there, and I think I'm really trying to find a way, or a pain point, I suppose, to get them in, because they need all of this as much as we do, but they're just, I guess they're so indoctrinated to hide and be masculine and these
Yeah.
kinds of things.
I think that's in wellness in general. It's
Exactly.
very female dominated,
Yeah.
but there's so many men out there that need this information. And I'm making a conscious effort not to only talk to women with these
Yes.
podcasts, because men need this information just as much as women do, if not more sometimes, especially when it's coming to opening up and giving yourself love.
Exactly.
So yeah, if any man is listening, or if any woman out there is listening who knows a man that is looking for love, tell them to look this seminar up and join this group of people who are looking for love. They could just find love in the seminar themselves. Have you had that happen before?
Yes, that happens. Yes, that absolutely happens. I mean, you never know when, but there's no doubt in many of my workshops, people pair up. They might end up friends, but there's definitely love interactions that happen and maybe go on to remain something really big in their lives.
I've heard this before. You know, if you are single, go out there and actually do the things that you want to do if you had a partner. So if you want to go to that beautiful restaurant down the road that you've been eyeing off, but you don't have anyone to go with, just go there and you'll start to meet the people in your life that you have similar interests with. Go and watch that film alone. Don't wait for someone to ask you. Go and, play golf, and you'll be around those like-minded people and attract similarities into your life and love.
And you know what, Maritza, something really, really exciting and cool about meeting someone special is you actually don't know when it's going to happen. You never know. And I think the ones that come together as a big surprise seem to be, I'm going to say, pretty solid, and you just never know. So it's like, go out there. And I think what can happen is, if someone maybe would never go to movies on their own, but this one time they think, I'm going to see that film, and you just never know that that's the time. But I guess one other assurance is synchronicity never lets you down. So if you are meant to be placed here or there, you will be.
Yeah.
So you might go out of your
push.
comfort zone, you'll be going. So it's very cool.
It's almost the art of surrendering as well. I talk about surrendering a lot in my life and in the self-work that I'm doing. And it's generally to do with career and things like that. But with surrendering yourself to being open to love is also relevant, isn't it?
Completely. And it's exactly the same. It's the same thing. And it's the same reason why, if we can chill out and just try and enjoy our day and enjoy the process, instead of pressuring ourselves, I suppose, which ultimately just gives stress, really. And same with when we're looking for someone. I think ultimately, if we can just get on with things and try and enjoy what we have got, and let them arrive. And I tell you this, you will never miss your person. You'll never miss them. So you don't even have to actively be looking. Like, I mean, I know it gets pretty exciting but sometimes, but you definitely won't miss them. I truly believe that our person is fated, and it doesn't matter whether we end up with 3 or 6 or 1, but our person or our people, our meetings are fated, and they happen at the time that, I guess, in universal time, whereas we get a bit, as people, we're like, we really want this now, but maybe now's not quite the right time.
So
Yeah.
in your mind, I mean, can we manifest the person of our dreams? I want to tell you this story because many years ago I heard this tactic to do this, and it worked for a couple of people that I know. So you were to write down all of the things that you'd hope to have in a partner on a piece of paper, listing all the qualities and values of that person, and then place the list in a little red box in the corner of your bedroom and allow the universe to do the rest, to bring that person into your life. Like, I actually saw this happen to a couple of ladies that I knew at the time, and whether they attracted lifelong partners or, that was another thing, but they definitely attracted love that encapsulated what they wrote on that list for a period of time into their lives. Do you feel like we can manifest people into our lives?
Oh, Maritza, I've got a bit of a different look at this, but I'm totally all about write down what you desire and put it in the box. But I totally believe that it's fated anyway. So with those girls whose person turned up pretty soon after, they were coming anyway. But I think that consciously as people, we want to feel like we've got a bit of control over it and that we can manifest exactly what we want. But I feel like we're remembering what was going to come. And that's why, we can write down, I don't know how detailed they get, but probably, tall with blonde hair and freckles and these kinds of things. And of course, I know they're going to want other qualities than just visual. But that's why I think they turn up, because they were coming anyway.
I love that. I love how you said remembering. That puts a whole different perspective on it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that obviously goes back into the past life and the regression part of it.
The pre-planning of the lives, yeah.
So do you feel like we choose our lives before we come into this earth?
Yeah, I'm certain we 100% choose it. And down to every detail really, but I guess the big things that we can really recognize, we do choose our parents, which that kind of thing can be alarming if for those who came in with challenging parents, but we chose everything, all the partners that we have, all the kids that we have, everything that happens it's got a deeper meaning to it. And I think if anyone is really feeling badly about a parent or a love or a relationship, then I urge you to delve deeper into why, because there'll be greater purpose to it, rather than to just make you suffer.
Getting some clarity into why certain things happen to you, because people have been through a lot of heartbreak in different ways, and to hear that sometimes it can be so difficult to say, I would never have chosen this in my life.
Yes.
But when you go back and you can visually see why you may have chosen these life experiences to teach you something that you didn't learn in another life, you may
it's like really potentially inappropriate to say it to someone in grief, for example, because it's almost like they have to come to this realization themselves, which I suppose is the actual process. And because it's like to say to someone that's really devastated, that was meant to be. Yeah, you planned that. It's like that is never going to be feeling nice to them. And they so I suppose as much as I believe it's not it's for them to arrive at this realization themselves. And I suppose they do, because I feel like it's what sends people soul searching.
It's again that reaching the rock bottom in order to go, okay, now I'm waking up. Well, I want to end on a positive note, because it sort of got very deep very quickly, and it's fantastic, because that's why I started this podcast, is to go deep in discussion with people and get into the nitty-gritty. But I do want to end on a positive, and for anyone out there who's listening and may want to, I know you said it's all fated, but in order to just open themselves up to receive love, is there any advice that you could give them to bring it into their life sooner?
Okay, I've come up with a bit of a methodology. I hope it makes sense. So here it is. It's awake. So awake, and these are the words: action, wellness, aware, kindness, and empowerment. So awake is the methodology, and I'm going to just quickly explain to our listeners what what this means. So action means taking action and putting energy into getting to know yourself and to put yourself out there. So take some action. And what will result from that will be the W in Awake, so wealth and wellness. So your entire physical, emotional, and mental sort of state can improve, and you'll be ready to create abundance, be that abundance of love or wherever it is you want it in your life. And the third A in Awake is for awareness. So what happens now is you have awareness of your tendencies, and that way what happens is they stop affecting you, or it reduces the time that it takes for you to, I guess, overcome things that annoy you or hurt you. And then we want kindness. So be kind to yourself. A lot of people are so mean to themselves, and they get sort of, I guess, they're self-sabotaging or or undermining thoughts that can go around in their mind. So it's like, be nice to yourself. You're nice to everyone else, so be kind to you too. And then what happens is you get empowered. So we've got empowerment, and you can be confident and more strong enough to steer your life with purpose and contentment. And that absolutely is when someone comes.
Oh,
It's
I
because
love
you're
that.
ready, and then they're probably going to be extraordinarily compatible with you.
Oh, that's lovely. And that's an easy one to remember too, awake. And it just
Awake.
encapsulates that so perfectly. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I hope people out there listening really got some insight into how to be open, and also just that surrendering to what fate has in store for us. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So thank you
Absolutely.
again, Toni.
Thank you, Maritza. Thank you for having me.
Now, if you've heard this and you'd like to share it with someone who may be looking for love or might like to hear this episode, please do so, and follow Toni Reilly and all her movements on her website at ToniReillyInstitute.com. Thank you, everyone. Be happy, be healthy, be conscious, and be kind, and be love.